Welcome to Questions Just Asked, where we answer your questions. Hey, just want to let you know we're doing a Bible study on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock that gets broadcast. And what we're studying in that Bible study is biblical characters, biblical heroes. And we're taking a character study. It's really seeing how God moves through these different people in the Bible. We're looking at men and women in the Bible. So if you feel so free, join us on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock. So let's get to the question of the day. Does the Bible call for sexual purity? If so, what qualifies as pure and impure? Why was it such a problem with certain biblical heroes? Oh boy. When we talk about sexual purity, what we're saying is that sex is reserved for a heterosexual marriage. It's really sexual ethics, not sexual purity, that we're talking about today. Sexual purity, as we're told in Ephesians, is men love your wives as Christ loved the church. As women respect your men. Sexual fidelity was to reveal Christ. It's also a protection of the weaker one in the relationship, which is often the woman. Marriage is the protection of a weaker person in the relationship, which is often the woman, because they don't work. They raise the kids. Their money is easy flowing. So the sexual purity is to be associated with marriage. What's qualified as impure? I like to look at it this way. Anything that you give another man or woman that should be reserved only for your wife or husband, future or present, is impure. If you're even, I never thought I'd have to deal with in my counseling sexual affairs via the internet. Internet affairs. And it's not about having a sexual relationship, not at all. It's about you're giving that person information, you're giving them your emotional side that should be reserved for your husband and wife. That's what it is. So that's how I look at it. Anything you're doing. So a kiss, who cares? Hold hands, who cares? Beyond that, you have to be watching out that you're not giving something to that person that should be reserved for your future or current husband or wife. Then it's impure. So why was this such a problem? I'll tell you why. Sex is problematic for all mankind. I don't care your age. I don't care your sex. We say we need it. No, we don't really need it. We want it. Science says the sexual urge is just as close to the desire to eat food. That's how strong it is. So why did the men in the Bible have problems with it? Why did the heroes of the Bible? Because it's been a problem for man since Adam and Eve in the garden. Remember what the first problem was? They realized they were what? Naked. They realized they were naked. Interesting. First problem was sexual in nature. And it just doesn't stop. Now, what do you do with that? You got to give it to the Lord. You got to seek Him in all things. He told men to love your wives as Christ loved the church. Wow. Loving our wives, being faithful to them, is like Christ loved the church. You know what He called it when God's children chase after idols? Prostitution. Adultery. So our marriage, our single spouse relationship was to resemble Christ in the church. So that when somebody says, why have you remained faithful all these years? He said, because that's what Christ did and wants me to do. One last thought. We think that this life is the central item of our lives. Not so. It's the life in and with Christ that is centrifugal to the believer. Are we giving ourselves to idols? No. Just like we're not be giving our bodies to others that are not our spouse. It really is about the glory of God. This whole sexual fidelity thing is about the glory to God. It's not about, hey, do you have children by other women? It's not about, hey, how many sexual relationships have I had? and I don't have a sexually transmitted disease. It's not what it's about. It's not about, oh, I love my wife even though I've had 3 other partners. It's not about that. It's about picturing what it is to love another person as Christ loved the church. It's to be a picture that so that we can proclaim the good news of Jesus without fear and trepidation through our lives. And mainly, who's that message to? Our children. How's the best way to keep your children from having premarital sex? And stay faithful to your wife and husband. Have a great relationship with them. That's the best way you can do it. These are my thoughts on the tough issue. I don't want to be here all day belaboring the point. So is there purity and impurity in the Bible? Yeah, there is. Impure is anything you give somebody else that should be reserved for your husband or wife, past, future, or present. Why was it such a problem? Because sexual problems have existed since day one. We think we need it, when all it is, we really want it. So if you can remember to keep your sexual life pure as Christ is to the church, you'll have a much greater success rate at staying away from the impurities of rampant sex. And man, our culture is a picture of sex going nuts, isn't it? Sex going wild. It's just crazy, the things we hear and see. And not only that, but marriage was reserved to resemble Christ's church, but it was also there to protect the weaker of the two parties, which is usually the woman who stays at home and takes care of the kids. It doesn't make as much money. It doesn't even hardly make any money. So that marriage was protected, and they shouldn't have to be worried about my husband's going off seeking another woman at the office. This isn't about what I can get. That's the other thing I think it is about sex. Sex isn't about what I get, it's what I give. I give that marital counseling to people all the time when they come to me from premarital counseling. So I want you to remind them about the sexual act. It's going to tell you it's what you can get. It's not about what you get, it's what you give. What you give to the other person. If we have 2 people giving to each other in a sexual relationship, it'd be a beautiful relationship. Premarital sex is usually about what I can get. Or adultery is about what I can get. And young ladies, don't give it to them no matter what they say. Tell them to wait till we get married. My father once told me that real love begins when sex ends. I want to say real love begins when there is no sex. You get it? I hope so. Hey, that's it. I don't have a question for next week yet. I just haven't picked one out. So you'll have to wait till next week to get the question, as we're going to go into March next week. It's hard to believe we're going to be into March next week. Where is time going? Flying. Fly. So anyways, thanks for joining me this week. See you next week.